right, welcome to the live stream, to the market analysis live stream. We're gonna go ahead and do a quick analysis, and if I recall correctly, one of the last weeks of the year. My view is still bullish. I'm still bullish. I still think that we're gonna get an end of the year run, just like we did on last year. I feel like if I'm not if I'm not wrong, if I'm not mistaken, I think we broke 100K. We broke 100K on the Q1, right? On Q1, we broke 100K on. Yeah, we did on. December 5. It was, and then we had like. Last year we had like end of the year we had quite a run in a way. It was by the end of the year, right? So I expect something in a way, something similar. We had a run by Q4 last year. I think a lot of people expected another run at Q4, but didn't. I think we were like minus 25% at this year's Q4 compared to last year, which was quite different. What do I expect? I still expect somewhat of a run on the last week, on the 2 weeks of this year. I expect what you will call Santa rally. That's what I expect. Many people, like I said with previous live stream, many people are expecting a recovery on. They changed their expectations from end of December to end of January, so they delayed the recovery expectations. There's been a lot of many people are losing their minds that in the sense that the Nasdaq has been very good lately. Has more or less kept within the range of 24, close to all-time highs. And many people are still losing their minds that Bitcoin is still lagging behind in this sense, right? But Bitcoin is, sometimes people forget that Bitcoin is that way, like that. Bitcoin is still Bitcoin. Bitcoin is still, despite being right now adopted by institutions, Bitcoin is still gonna behave before ETFs, before ETF behavior. Bitcoin is still gonna behave the way it always behaved before being adopted by mainstream, right? So that's why is one of the reasons of my thesis that we're gonna see a rally, end of the year rally, when everyone's closed, when everything's closed, when everyone's on vacations. I expect a run. Whether it's in Christmas or whether if it's end of the year, New Year's. One of my other arguments that supports these theses is that we've been seeing, I think this past week, we've been seeing a lot of volatility. I feel like volatility is back in the menu, and we also been seeing a lot of you could say buy strength. A lot of strong green candles. Yes, a lot of reversals and a lot of selling, but we've been seeing quite some candles that show that there's, despite being the top of the range, despite being close to 90s, we've been seeing more or less a buying strength. We can see here. I think here it's easier to put into perspective. Here was the bottom. So yeah, like I said, you can see here on Monday, and this happened, and but there was a lot of strength. There's still a lot of strength, a lot of buying. Yeah, selling, buying, selling. Right. Very volatile. I feel like, and I feel like in the lows, there, like I feel like the volume crunch. There's like a volume crunch. The very lows because there's inactivity, not many traders around. It's just the big players step in and they do whatever because there is no activity, no volatility, no volume. The big players step in and do whatever they like. This is the period that we're in right now. A lot of volatility, and that's where like big players step in and play with Bitcoin however they want. This happens before the big movement up. That is my my thesis right now here. So really. So right now I'm saying that we bottom already. One of my other arguments on this is mainly, well, before I go on with the next argument, I'm gonna say here that, what else can I say here? There's been definitely some buying strength. There's there hasn't been a lot of continual incessant selling like we've seen around here in November. Non-stop selling more or less has stopped. But there's still some resistance levels like the ones we see here, 93k, 94k, even 90k. I think it's going to be very important to break this level here, to break 90k. This was at the start of the week. Every time a week starts, it's important to know where it starts. What level it is. You can see here exactly that this week touched 90k, the very levels that the previous week closed at. The previous week closed at 92, and here we can see. So you can see here that's the resistance that right now we are. It's primed to break. That we need to break this. I think very soon. And then once it breaks, we're gonna go ahead and go to the next one, which is 93, and there's another one, 96, if I read it correctly. So there's got a lot of challenge, a lot of resistance levels. There's been a lot of my opinion, a lot of strength. I still remain bullish. I still think that the bottom is relatively close. Another argument that made me believe this thesis is that we bottomed. We touched. We did a retest on alts. This is the total 3, which more or less tracks the behavior, like the capitalization of altcoins, of main altcoins, excluding Ethereum and Bitcoin. So you can see here that the total 3 altcoins have been in a steady decline, but on this past Thursday, the last Thursday of last week, it retested the previous bottom and retested 800. I believe that many players watch and follow this particular tracker. You know, I don't think it's a coincidence that it touched 800. I think it's a more or less important tracker to gauge how alts are doing on the market. So so that was important. We touched another low, we tested the lows, and right now there was a little buy. There was quite some buy on Friday. We stayed more or less flat on the weekend, but that was to be expected. So yeah, I mean, we are at the very lows. Another possible scenario is that it also stays like this, and we do a wick down, and then maybe some recovery. But yeah, I mean, the macro environment is still bullish. The stocks and Nasdaq is also very bullish. It's very close to all-time high. It's still above the support resistance levels, still above 25k. And yeah, I mean, but I feel like it looks like it has been acquiring some fresh inflows. That's what I believe. So that's where we are right now. Let's see what this week holds, and let's see if we get to see a Santa rally. And this time around, there's still some days. There's still a couple of days before Christmas, so I think we're still in time. All right. So see you later. See you next week.